Leave it to New York Internet.
Oh, figures. Yeah, we'll blame the Bronx. The Bronx takes the heat.
We'll blame the Bronx. Why not?
Something went wrong in the Bronx last night because the Yankees got beat by the Indians.
Yeah,
I still call them the Indians.
I said, they've been on a good run, but
yeah,
sometimes they can't win them all.
So James McManus is with us, an actual real-life former mob. So we'll put former in there just so the feds know that
Correct.
He's no longer in the biz. But he did the job and he did the time. McManus was part of the Lucchese family, which, that crime family basically parallels what we saw on TV on the screen with what? Goodfellas is what it was.
Yeah.
Did they get that mostly right? What happened
It's before my time. It's before my time. But, you have plenty of people that are out there that talk about it. So I'll leave it to the experts that were there.
Yeah. So let's talk about President Trump, the idea that I don't really know. James, you're going to have to tell me what it's about and why you don't like this one bit. In fact, you're calling this a potential nuclear bomb. This could blow up in our face. President Trump's proposal on how he wants to do 401ks for us. He wants to privatize Social Security. What's going on?
So what really right now is because of the civil RICO suit, because I have experience in it from 30 years ago, and I put a civil RICO suit in the Southern District of New York against a private credit lender. Okay, there's an asset management company, Fairbridge Mismanagement, but Fairbridge represents the market as a whole. It's $1 billion entity. Okay, and what happened is to Trump, to the point that you brought up, and I'll get into the micro level of it, is that his concept is right. Let's put the money into private credit industry because the returns are so great. So why can't the public participate in it? Well, it's two parts. One, the public is participating in it. He just wants to double down on it. Now, I'm not disagreeing that everybody should make more money. We all need it today. But the problem in the private credit industry is that there's really no regulation. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, in the fourth quarter of 2025, started to sound the alarm bell, and he said that the private credit industry has been working in an opaque box, and he equates them to cockroaches. Now that's parallel to the same time that I filed my suit against them. And what happens is that you have to have some sort of regulations with these private credit lenders. And they don't. And where do they get their money from? They get their money from institutional vehicles, Brookfield, Oaktree, and your next door neighbor in Nebraska, American Life and Securities Corp. So I agree with Trump's concept 100%, but I also say not so fast. We have a virus going on that people have right now that they don't realize they're infected. And until we, quote unquote, true vaccine for this virus, and in essence, tighten up the regulations, it's going to blow up in everyone's face. And I can get into that shortly.
Yeah, if it does blow up, so what does that look like? If it's worst case scenario and this whole thing backfires and blows up, what is that going to mean for the average citizen? What does that look like?
Great question. We're all old enough to remember the 2008 and 9 housing crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay. So the dynamics to why the housing crisis occurred in the first place is a mirror image of what's going on in the private credit business. Because when they tightened up the banking regulations, what happened to all that business? Where'd it go? Well, all they did was step to the right and open up this unregulated private credit industry. And now it's a $2 trillion industry, which is larger than the housing crisis was in 8 and 9. And where the money comes to these institutions through annuities, union, pension funds, retirement funds, because it's not their money. It's the public's money. So who always ends up paying the price? The public. And the brakes in the that we've seen in early 8 that started to show the stress is the same breaks that you can't Google or read a newspaper that you don't see Moody's downgrading a private credit firm day after day, and even today, Times, Barron's, Wall Street Journal, downgrade, negative. So it's the writing is starting to become public, and once the public starts to read about it and see it as an everyday occurrence, the problem is here.
The writing's on the wall if you know how to read it. This guy does. James McManus happened to, be in this kind of world, this finance world. Let me throw a few words at you. Racketeering, extortion, money laundering, fraud. That's not what McManus was involved in, the crime family. That's Fairbridge asset management and a big federal lawsuit. James, why is there still an empty lot at 1932 McGraw Ave in the Bronx?
Well, there's an empty lot in 1932 McGraw Avenue, and there's also a 32-unit, $17 million building already built in Connecticut. And both were funded by Fairbridge mismanagement, I call them. And really what happened right now is, I call them cartels. Because if you close your eyes, just like you opened up with those crimes that we've alleged that they have committed, you would think you're talking about a cartel. You'd think you're talking about a crime organization.
Yeah.
But, instead of walking around with baseball bats, they're using predatory lending, equity stripping, and they're walking around in $2,000 Brioni suits, and they're in glass towers in Manhattan and all around the country, actually. So what happened, why this has occurred, and it's, this is a 4-year period, so it's many layers and levels to it, but I'll give you a quick, easy example. In August of 2024, August 14th, we were just finishing the first $4 million tranche of construction lending from them. And we already had an agreement for an additional $4 million to complete the building. The building was erected, all right, in Connecticut. And on the 14th in the morning, they sent us over a term sheet, $8.2 million at 11% interest, which was, plus once you cook the points into it, it's about 13-14%. So it's not cheap money. And they send the wire instructions to Flagstar Bank alongside of it for us to make deposits to them as well. So, but by 5 o'clock in the evening, they send an email over to myself and my partner and say, "We're sorry, we have to rescind the offer." Then they send an email to my partner without me on it at 10 o'clock at night and say, "This has nothing to do with you, my partner, but it has to do with Jim and McGraw Avenue, which is in the Bronx, different state, New York versus Connecticut. And we want to talk about his interest in Popular." Really? And so now at this point, it's the bait and switch. I have a building that's erected. We never had an issue on that project. There's not one email, not one text message, nothing. This project is running smooth. But what they realize is, you brought up the baseball analogy from this morning. Well, this was a grand slam, not a double, Connecticut was a grand slam. Now, there was a project in the Bronx that had difficulties because New York City DOB and delays that were going on. But that was one issue. But the real issue in that project was that Fairbridge basically reneged, just like they did in that day on August 14th. Prior to, they reneged on the funding and then left me with a mountain of debt. And I said, "How the heck am I going to get out of this?" So what happens is they came up with a plan. We're going to extort James for an additional $1 million in Connecticut. So instead of 8.2, we want $9.8 million. So I went into a severe stress because, you guys really got me over a barrel. And this project in Connecticut is a stellar project, and you're ruining it. Well, that was August of 2024. I ended up having a heart attack in October of 2024 that I don't know about, which now I'm dragging, and I'm fighting with them in the process. I will not give them the additional $1 million. Well, what happens is December 4th of 2024, I end up in St. Francis Hospital in Long Island, and I have a sextuplet, 6 bypasses, and a heart valve repair. I'm clinically dead for 5 hours. Thank God, and only divine intervention is why I'm here, and some great doctors over there. And then I still continue to fight with them. Now, I said I do not want to cross-collateralize these properties because they don't belong there, and there was a long story to why. But I offered for them, and all of this is in emails. There's no conspiracy theory. But it's important to understand the nuances because then it gets into how this affects the public. So what happened is I said, I'll give you $1 million, unencumbered, no debt on it, piece of property, leave it to McGraw Avenue. They say, no, we're not interested in additional collateral. We want to stay with the deal that's there. But I knew at that point and prior to, they were setting me up for an equity strip. And then they created defaults. So what did they do? They dragged the job out 10 months. They stopped the funding. And there was an interest reserve account to pay the interest, $50,000 a month. $500,000, they depleted my interest reserve all this time. So they set us up to fail. And there's many emails and many text messages and many examples of the crimes that you mentioned in the beginning, and there's many more that follow. So that's where this kind of comes together.
James McManus knows firsthand, as he describes in his personal business life, how things can get sideways. One last thing, James, before we're out of time, you mentioned that President Trump, his executive order opening 401k plans to $2 trillion in private credit money. He's got the right idea, but the implementation, what it can go wrong. Can you make it right? If you were to advise him saying, yeah,
100%.
How do we
100%.
fix it?
So all he has to do is look back what he did in the bank. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. Well, if it has money like a bank, it lends money like a bank, and can take property like a bank, well, then they should have the same regulations as the bank. And they don't. So what happens is we need to, and I've been speaking with senators and congressmen and American Life and Security Corp there in Nebraska. That's where money came from in these deals. And the thing is that Fairbridge, they have a due diligence that they representations of warranties to the institutional entities that they get the money from. Well, they have a platform dedicated to lending to racketeers, people with millions of dollars of judgment on their head, disbarred attorneys, government informants, and the list goes on and on. Well, guess what happens? Through that pipeline, like an American Life and Securities Corp, the money comes from the public. This is their annuities. This is their life insurances, that those premiums are taken and rolled into an Oak Tree or rolled into a Fairbridge. And then it goes into deals that are toxic. And that's what happened in 8-9. The brokers were giving loans to people that they should have one home, not 3 homes. And then you infect the whole market, becomes systemic. So all Donald Trump has to do here is to get the regulators, like he said, drain the swamp. I'm all for it. But in this case, there's a lot of draining. No one's touched it yet. And Jamie Dimon and the wonderful minds in the financial world today, they know it. They're out there saying it. And you can't go a day without seeing a downgrade in the private credit sector. You just have to open up the paper.
James McManus with us. Very insightful stuff. Appreciate it. No matter how much you might be inclined to do so, do not send a dead horse's head to the CEO of Fairbridge Mismanagement. I said, I don't suggest that.
So Jake, quick question. You're from Hell's Kitchen originally in New York?
Yeah.
I was looking. I said, "You got to be kidding me!" So you left the concrete jungle to go to the wide open country.
Yeah,
God bless you. Smart man. You're a smart man.
Complete about. My brother's still NYPD in the Bronx. He doesn't know any better, but I got out of there, man.
God bless them, especially with the pain and suffering they had to endure over the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible. It's a disgrace.
Hey, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good day.
Cowboy State Daily Show continues. Let's get weather forecast in here, and our weather guy, Don Day, ready to join. I think the weather's looking good. Pretty sure, but we'll double check.